Quarantine, March 19th, 2020. Been one of the most controversial things that have been going on, and to be honest, it's been a wacky couple of months. However, while this quarantine may have been good for us, and honestly it is, there is still one thing that people haven't really talked about, and that is loneliness. It's one of the more severe things that can arise from this quarantine, and that is what I'll be covering in this speech. Now, from my first source, the Journal of Aging Life Care, we as a species, we're programmed to have social connections with others. But here's the thing. For loneliness, there's two ways to kind of define it. Social isolation is what you do voluntarily, as in what we're doing now. But loneliness, it's like a deep feeling that you don't really get anywhere else, only if you, let's say, move to a new town or new country, and you just feel out of place. You don't really have a supportive backbone, and you don't have anyone to really rely on. Here's the thing. Loneliness, it's different for everyone. And because of that, it's really hard to diagnose, and it's hard to get a true beat on for symptoms. And in a study they conducted, over 90% of men who were single, they had no real connections outside of a few relatives, they have a massively increased risk for cardiovascular disease. And also, loneliness is a major cause of depression. It also has a major effect on the nervous system. It decreases the amount of sleep that you get every night. It lowers overall health by affecting your immune system, making you less able to fight diseases, and it can even increase the chances of dementia. And source number 2, isolation comes from a lack of contact in general, or a lack of diverse contact, where just like in the quarantine, say you're stuck at home with your family, that's all you have to really talk to, not counting social media. Half the time, these feelings of loneliness come from a feeling of personal inadequacy, where the person often doesn't feel good enough or doesn't feel accepted enough, even though opposite circumstances prove true. These feelings of loneliness and isolation often occur in older men, which is mostly due to retirement taking out the things they do daily, such as work, where they get to socialize with their coworkers, and due to growing physical problems, which prevents them from doing the things that they did when they were younger. That's not to say that it doesn't apply to other students. It's just that more studies have proven that older men have this. Unhealthy behaviors such as smoking and drinking are also linked to this feeling of loneliness, and mostly it's because it's due to worse social connections and worse living conditions. And source number 3 were from the Psychiatric Times. They predicted the media would spin this quarantine into something more negative than it really is, mostly because of the economy, oh no, their toilet paper. No, we have leaves. No, just kidding. All joking aside, yes, too much social isolation would lead to loneliness, and loneliness would need to a lot of reflection, be it on the outside world or just on yourself, and it kind of segues into overthinking, and then it segues into even more depressive tendencies. But however, there are two feelings of loneliness. There's the temporary feeling of loneliness, as in like, oh man, I kind of want to get out of here, like party-wise, and clinical loneliness. It's kind of lumped in together with depression, but if it is lumped in with depression, it can snowball into something much worse. However, if you're in a group, in a group of trusted individuals, if you want to help curb that loneliness, you're going to have to vocalize what you're feeling. You got to have the support of others behind you. And you have to recognize what you can or cannot do to help you out. And finally, from the American Psychological Organization, findings in 2015 show that loneliness is twice as deadly, both physically and mentally, as morbid obesity. And this has also gone up due to the feeling of bonding together have gone down significantly in the past couple of years. What I mean by that is that there's been a lower number of marriages, there's been a lower amount of people participating in religious activities, And there's also a much lower amount of people doing volunteer work. This was all before quarantine, and this has just been an ongoing problem with America right now. This loneliness is, linked to dissatisfaction with family, social, or community life. And yeah, chronic loneliness has the same effect as drinking, smoking, or morbid obesity. And it includes a 30% increase in heart attack or stroke. And surprisingly, loneliness correlates more to race than it does sex, as white people, as they found, are they're less lonelier than black people. However, but there's a good side to this. See, to beat loneliness, sure, it's not a global fix, so one for a solution for someone might not work for someone else, but, however, engaging in more groups, be it like the good, healthy kind for you, it proves positive for a decrease in loneliness. And in a study they conducted with senior citizens, not all bodily functions are needed. So say you don't have access to your legs, it's fine. Just get involved some way, somehow. And so, as quarantine seems to be coming to a close, social distancing and isolation is still more important than ever. Though still, be isolated in moderation. Remember, stay connected, and don't fall in these feelings of chronic loneliness, which could make things worse than before. After all, it is better to face this virus together. Well, I mean, metaphorically, not physically. So, 6 feet and all that. But remember, you got this. I got this. We got this.